Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Jackie Ma. And today I'm really excited to bring on a dear friend, Antoinette Fairhurst. We've been together journeying for the past, I think it's 10 years now. And she has an incredible story. And she's just a really beautiful woman who has so much to share. So I wanted to bring her on and talk about her story and what's going on with the work. And so let's get into it. Antoinette, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was trying to remember when you first came to Les
It's
Marguerites.
it's been over 10 years now.
It must have been.
Yeah,
So long ago, but it
I
feels like
know.
yesterday.
Totally. It does. It really does. So, I would love to hone in. Antoinette has incredible children that I love very much. And so I just want to like hone in on you and your story, which is such a beautiful story. And yeah, so let's get in. Let's start with, I'd love to start wherever you feel like we need to start, but let's want to start with England. Where do you want to start?
Well, okay. I was born in England and I raised and, typical family, mother, father, sister, whatever. But when I was 19, I decided to move to Israel. And it was a weird thing to do because nobody at that time did things like that, really. They did interrailing or just, nobody did anything quite as adventurous as getting up and moving to Israel. But I decided I needed a challenge and that was going to be it. So I arrived in Jerusalem, sort of the very late 80s. I was 19 years old, arrived as a nanny, worked for a family for a couple of years, but fell in love with the country. Had my first baby there. Just really, yeah. I mean, it was just so different. And in fact, I think I probably would still be there, but things changed. I ended up sort of getting divorced and moving back to the UK. Basically, I was in Israel for 13 years, so it was
Did
a
you
big.
meet your husband there?
So I met my first husband in Jerusalem. And like I said, our first child was born there. And it's just an amazing country. And
It
I
is.
did I did literally all of my growing up there. I was 19, I left, I arrived as a teenager and left as a mother, really. So it was a real kind of, yeah, just a massive initiation. There's no other way to describe it. It was the first part of the initiation, I suppose, because it's been in stages, but it was where I became a mother. It was where I really learned to be resourceful. It was so different from anything I'd ever experienced. I'd grown up in sort of middle England, and then here I was in the Middle East, and I had Israeli friends and Palestinian friends, and I was sort of embracing the whole Jewish. My first husband was Jewish, so I was embracing the whole Judaism. Felt so deeply connected to that, which was a huge shock, really, because I've been raised as a sort of Church of England Baptist, sort of weird mix of stuff. And I used to go to Sunday school at a Baptist church, literally because there was a bus that used to pick up all the kids on the estate and take them to this Baptist church. But what was so amazing, I'd sort of grown up going to this Baptist church, and I find myself living in a village called Encarum, which is the birthplace of John the Baptist. And I was like, how, just that was just, oh well, just the synchronicity of that alone, it was like, this is just bonkers. So and then moved from there and lived in Jerusalem. So really just embracing the whole Jewish bloodline, really, even though I have no Jewish blood in me, but felt so deeply connected to it. And still really do feel connected to it. I mean, one of my children's living in Israel now, so as you know.
Yeah.
So there's still a real deep connection there.
So
It's like a
powerful.
motherland. For me, it's like a motherland.
Yeah. Yep. Mm. And what happened that transitioned you out? When did you leave?
So I left in 98, and I left because my first marriage, wasn't in very good shape, and I decided I didn't really want to be a single mum in Israel on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't have any extended family there. So I moved back to the UK. I was expecting our second child. Moved back to the UK. Really did try to make a go of my first marriage, but it wasn't going to work out. So I sort of found myself back in the UK with two young children, and sort of just had to sort of reinvent myself, I suppose. And did the single mum thing for a couple of years. It did a
It's not all
full-time
it's
job.
cracked up to be.
It's not what it's cracked up to be, but actually, I know it was just the three of us. We were just there to conquer the world, and it was hard. It was really tough. I was working in a really big job, working sort of 60 hours a week. Just trying to sort of keep a roof over our heads and do the best I could. And I think I did a pretty good job. I mean,
No
we
doubt.
survived. We really did survive. We didn't want for anything. So so did that. And then I was set up on a blind date. So my sister and a friend of, well, a colleague she was working with, were sort of gossiping, I suppose, in the office one day. And my sister phoned me up and said, "Do you want to go on a blind date?" It's like, "Well, not really." No. Do you want to go on a blind date? Well, no, I don't really want to go. Go on, go on. This guy's really nice. You'll really like him. Well, who is he? She goes, "Well, we're not gonna. He's called Keith. He's 46. He's never been married, and that's all you're gonna know." And literally went on this blind date with Keith. And the girls were 3 and 6 at the time, or 3 and 5, I think, at the time. And we met for lunch. The longest first date ever. I think it lasted about 8 hours. And my sister phoned me up and said, "Where are you?" "I'm on my blind date. Where do you think I am?" And I knew after 2 weeks I was going to marry him. Having said I was never going to get married again, but I just fell madly in love, and he did too.
We love
So,
Keith.
we love Keith. We love Keith.
Oh, that's incredible. And you went on to have two more children with him.
Yeah, so 4 children.
Amazing.
I mean, all 4 of them were so different, but I mean, just amazing that they, 2 different fathers, but they're so close. There's such a unit on their own, which is, just, I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And I know it doesn't always happen like that, but, I think, well, they just get on so well. And I think part of that is because of where they've grown up and the way in which they've grown up. They've had not a conventional sort of childhood in a way. We moved to France when the eldest was 11 and the youngest was 1. And we bought this sort of rambling, abandoned old house in the south of France that needed a ton of work. And they just had to sort of get on, really. They almost sort of, I want to say they almost raised themselves. They had quite a feral kind of childhood, particularly the youngest. She really did raise herself. She really just amused herself and played. And they've had, they've been exposed to so many different people because we decided to run the house as a bed and breakfast. So they've, from a really young age, been used to meeting people, talking to people, sharing their home with, strangers all the time. So they've, I think that's been one of the reasons why they were really sort of glued together. Maybe, I think.
Magic. I think so too. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful to see. Like, there's also, like, you were on a TV show.
Yeah, we decided just before we left the UK, we moved out here. In fact, I was talking to Tori, our eldest, and said, our story is going to be quite a cool story. We should see if anybody's interested in sort of following it. And there were all kinds of those, lifestyle TV shows at the time. There still are, but there were lots of them. So we went we went onto the internet and we looked at different shows that we thought would fit our story. And we came up with this show called Build a New Life in the Country. And I just sent them an email and said, we're, a composed family, newly, 2 children from one marriage, 2 children from another, relatively newly married. We're selling up everything in the UK and moving to France. Would you be interested in the story? And they were like, yes, we would. So they followed us for a year, which was really cool, and a lot of fun. And I'm so glad, because actually, we were so busy at that time. We wouldn't have had, we would never remember to take photographs or log anything. It was sort of before, mobile phones. Nobody had cameras on their phones, and but we've got this great little video. Well, it's 1 hour, sort of 45 minutes of our story. I'm so grateful to it, because every now and again, as a family, we watch it. Not that often, but we do, from time to time. And I think we watched it probably the last time about 4 years ago. And Louis, our only boy, he couldn't bear to watch. He was like, "No, I can't watch because it looks like we're not going to make it." And I'm like, "You can see we made it. We made
did it.
So what are you afraid of?" So,
if for that video, is there a link, or is it like old school that there's like a CD or something?
it's a bit old school there.
Okay.
We have a CD, we have the master, but I think maybe you can find it on YouTube. I don't know, to be honest.
We should find out so that way we can put it below for the listeners. Yeah. That would be
we
great.
should, because it really tells a good story. It really does tell a good story, and it just shows how much we did.
Yeah, it's huge. And what was the house before? Do we know what it was?
Yeah, so a few things actually. The wonders of modern technology. Now, I have an Instagram, and the granddaughter of the grandparents who bought this house in the 1920s. I'm in contact with her, and she messages me and gives me little bits of history that I didn't know, which is so cool.
That's very cool.
It's really cool. So so the 2 brothers that we bought it from, their parents bought it in the 1920s, and it was run as an annex to the hotel that used to be right across the road from us, which is it was a thermal spa village. And the hotel had its own thermal bath. And so when the hotel was fully booked, guests would come and stay at Les Marguerites. So it's been used to welcoming people for forever, really. Before that, it was a convalescence home for wounded soldiers after the First World War.
Wow.
Then after sort of, I suppose, the 1950s, 60s, 70s, they'd split the house into 3 apartments, so it was like holiday accommodation. I think it has even been a doctor's surgery. It's always received guests forever, but it's also been a place of healing, I think. Oh, I know it. So historically, it's been a place of healing. Yes. So, and I think I know that people, when they come and stay, they definitely pick up on that.
I can confirm. Yes. Absolutely.
So all we've done is just carry on the story, really. We've just, we sort of brought it back to life. It had been not totally empty, but it had only been used as a holiday home for, many years. So it had been sort of stood empty, hadn't been a family home for a long time. So, in fact, when we first saw the house, when we came to view the house the first time, the first time we saw the house was Keith's 50th birthday. And we walked along the road and peered across the wall, and the house was all shuttered up. And we just looked at each other, and we just said to each other, "Could you imagine living in that house?" And I mean, we couldn't imagine it, but we could. Yeah. And the house wasn't up for sale. It was just a beautiful house, and we just fell in love immediately. And it was only when we came on holiday the following year, and we went to go and visit a friend of ours who's an estate agent, and in the window was the house. And Keith came back and he was like, I've made a viewing. We're going to go, I've made an appointment.
Mm.
We're going to go and view the house. So it was mad. I mean, totally mad. We hadn't even sold our house and we were already sort of, you watch those TV programs and you're sort of screaming at the TV, how can they be so crazy? They haven't sold their house and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And we did all the things that, everything tells you not to do, but we did. And I think it was just this great love affair. We literally fell in love with the house straight away.
Listeners, the house is like, how many bedrooms is it?
Well, total 12 bedrooms.
It's
But we
like the land, it's just filled with these huge mother trees, and it's so lush. It's such a holding place.
it really is.
It is.
I
The
mean, I've had
garden is
people,
like heaven.
people have described it as a lighthouse, and it really is.
Oh, it is a
It really
lighthouse
is a
for
lighthouse.
sure.
And in fact, the granddaughter who I'm in touch with on Instagram, and she spent many of her summers here as a child. And the last message I had, just sort of in the new year, she was sort of telling me stories of her childhood and coming here on holiday. And she said, I just used to feel like a princess in that house. And you feel so, well, you just feel like a princess.
Yeah.
You feel like a king and a queen. I mean, I feel like a queen living in this house. And I know that, and not in a kind of sort of rich money way, but just
no, in like I know when I see you like waltzing around with your broom.
there's
there's
nothing.
there's so much work to do, but there's so much grace that
Yeah.
I just feel in that house. And obviously, yeah, it comes through you too. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful. So there's something I want to lean into here. So now you're in your second marriage, you're in this big home. Now you had 4 children, so 3 of the children, were they born in that house or no?
No, so all the children were born in the UK. Well,
Okay.
no, the eldest was born in Israel, and the other 3 were born in the UK. The last 2 were born at home, which was amazing.
And P.S., I'd like to add that the eldest that was born in Israel is living in Israel again
I
now.
know,
So
which is
like,
crazy. It's
yeah,
really crazy. She feels, I mean, she just loves the land. She
yeah,
really loves the land, but she loves here too. I mean,
yes.
there's such a different energy. I don't know,
It's a
for
huge
those that
difference.
have been to Israel, it's such a big energy there. But this is kind of soft and feminine, and I think Israel's a little bit more masculine. And I don't, for me anyway. I
Yeah,
suppose it just speaks differently to
yeah.
different people. But certainly for me, this feels soft and nurturing and encouraging, and just all those lovely
Mm, yeah.
words.
So the lands there are just filled with mysticism,
Yeah.
an ancient world, which of course follows you, right? Because I
Well,
mean, Israel and France both have such powerful histories. Like their stories are,
they really are. But again, this is what's so crazy about life, isn't it? When I went to Israel, I knew nothing about Israel. I knew nothing certainly about the political situation that was going on there.
yeah.
Well, it is still. The only thing I knew about Israel was what I had learned in Sunday school. So, I literally just was so ignorant.
Mm.
And when I came to this part of France, the same thing. I was like, oh, it's south of France. I used to come actually to sort of the Provence and around that area of France, also south of France. But that feels very different to this side of France. I mean, the Provence and Côte d'Azur and all of that is, there's definitely some magic there too. But this is just so authentic and so real. And the history, there's just layers and layers of history. And so So I knew nothing about it here. I literally, I didn't know anything about the Cathars. I didn't know anything about the whole sort of Mary Magdalene, story that's going on or has gone on here. I knew nothing. And
Yeah.
it was literally just opened up to me as the years went, it was just like an opening.
Mm-hmm.
I've just got layers and layers of information that just sort of sort of handed to me, really. More and more explanations. And of course, the more you know, the less you know. So it just one bit of knowledge leads to a million other questions. So yeah.
It does. It does. So the other three children were born in the UK.
So they were all born in the UK. Yeah.
Okay. And those were home births?
The last two
The
were at
last
home.
two. Okay. All right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Something so beautiful that I love about being a part of your family is watching the relationship with you and Keith and the dynamics of the family. And I personally have not seen a large amount of very healthy and really like tuned in marriages and family structures. So it's really wonderful to watch you. And you once taught me something. I just want to lean into it. And you basically told me that what keeps your marriage so strong is that you hold the marriage first before the children. Do you
Yeah,
want to talk into that a little
yeah,
bit?
we do. I mean, look, having had one marriage that didn't work out, I mean, I'm definitely a better wife second time around than I was the first time around. And I think Keith and I made kind of an agreement first, really early on, that in order for this to work, we had to put each other first.
Mm.
And by putting each other first, we are creating a good foundation for our entire family, so for our children. And that's not to say that we're, depriving our children. It's not to say that we're putting clothes on our backs and not on theirs, or feeding ourselves and not feeding them. But what it's saying is that emotionally, we're putting we're putting all of our focus on our own marriage, on our relationship, on keeping it good, keeping it solid. And it's not all, we row like every other couple, but we spend time with each other. We devote time to each other, because these children are just passing through us. They're not ours. They're not our possessions. They don't belong to us. Of course, we love our children, and we do make lots of sacrifices for them, but our emphasis is on each other.
Mm.
And it's not very fashionable to say that. People, I put my children first. I do anything for my children. Of course, I would do anything for my children as well. But actually, really, what we should be doing is putting ourselves first, and then our marriages, and and then the rest just is, if it's always coming from a place of love, it's good.
Yeah.
It's solid. It's a solid foundation.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful what you're modeling, and it works for your family. And I think it would work in a lot of families, and we're not
Yes.
seeing it. And what I see so much of is this distortion that we have been collectively, that many of us have collectively swallowed around what mothers, the bleeding heart mother, which is not a healthy mother. But it has been like holding everything, holding the child like this. It's all me, instead of, as you said, the children just come through me. So stewards.
Yeah, they really are. But it's also, they're a great distraction, aren't they, children? So, they'll come in, they'll be talking, whatever they might be doing. And you can sometimes get so distracted with all of it, what's going on in their lives, taking them up to, football practice or singing lessons or whatever, that it's like an excuse. So you then start neglecting your marriage, your relationship. Oh no, we can't talk now because I've got to go and do this. Of course you've got to go and do those things, but if you're always putting the emphasis on your marriage, then you're always dealing with things as they come up, rather than waiting for, a huge crisis, and you're dealing with it rather than waiting and putting things on hold and then not dealing with it before it gets too late.
Yeah, absolutely. I think culturally, there's a lot of differences as well. Like here in America, like if you look at parenting worldwide, it's different everywhere. It just depends what the culture is, right, of where you are. But I think the method, and we see this with indigenous families as well, like the children are more apart of the family unit. They're not so special that they like don't have to do anything. In other words, they
Yeah.
contribute, they actually work, they get the water, they help out, and they find value in the family unit um as a part of the whole, versus my special child. It's not about that one child, it's about the entire unit and how it works together.
Well, I mean, we are totally a unit. I mean, we are,
Yeah.
the six of us. Well, we've had to be.
Yeah.
This is a however many 2,000 square meters of land. I don't know how many 400, 500, 600 square meters of property. It is. There's work. There's gardening. There's leaves to be raked. There's
Yeah.
dishes to be washed, laundry to be hung up. I'm not saying our children are, our slaves, but they've all had to contribute. They all have to have a work ethic. They have to know that,
I love
you know,
it.
they have a turn to unload the dishwasher. They have a turn to clear up after dinner. It's in order for us to live, we all have to contribute and put some work in.
It's so
And
important. It really creates strong values,
it does. It
strong
totally
work
does.
ethic. It's very, very beautiful. What I feel, which is kind of lailing here, I'm in New York, but there's this, everything is accessible. I mean, you can't have food delivered to you all the
No,
time, right?
you've got to
Everything is
cook.
like, you have to cook, you have to take care.
Yeah,
You can't have your laundry done for you and have it delivered. Here, it's a whole different world. So there becomes this leniency, and we
yeah,
stop doing the mundane, which the sacred is also in the mundane, right? The children build self-esteem whenever they're doing all this
totally,
work at your home, and
totally.
even serving cake and doing all the things that I've seen some of
Yeah,
you children do. They're interfacing with adults,
they
they're
are.
expressing themselves, they're really revealing more of who they are, and they're learning what they're made of young so they can cultivate that
Totally,
throughout their lives.
totally, totally, absolutely. And well, yeah. I mean, I
Well
couldn't
done,
imagine doing.
Antoinette.
Well, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They've got a good work ethic.
Yeah.
And going forward, yeah, hopefully that will carry them through the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Understanding that you work hard, you have rewards.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've all celebrated we've all celebrated in this amazing place that we're living in.
Mm.
It's been our family home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's touched so many lives. It's
Oh,
certainly
it
touched
really
mine and
has.
my family. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a sacred place. And it just, yeah, I just want to say it really attests to service. Like, it's a big service that you're providing,
Yeah.
holding this space, and caring for this, like, chambre d'hôte.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a beacon in the village too. So it's like all the weddings,
We've done
there's so
weddings,
many.
we've done funerals, we've done christenings, we've done um, so many cultural events, we've done concerts and theatre, and
Yeah,
we've held retreats. I mean, ceremonies. I mean, I can't tell you how many ceremonies there have
yeah,
been sort of in the garden, just so much, yoga and meditation and
yeah.
just so fire ceremonies, and I mean, just so much, so much.
It's so powerful. It
It's
really, really
great.
is. And you really, when I was living there, there are some people that don't engage with the French culture. Like, you went in, you learned the language, you made sure that you integrated into the community because you knew that you were going to be.
I mean, it helped that we had children at school. I had no choice. I had to learn to speak French. I
Yeah.
had to be able to speak to the teachers and the doctors and,
Yeah.
deal with all of that. So, um, I can see how it would be more difficult for people that don't, that are perhaps come and retire here and, can live within a sort of an Anglophone community.
Mhm.
So I was really fortunate that that we came with young children, that we were working here, so that we had no choice. it was just the way it had to be.
Yeah.
It was good.
It's very good. It's very good. And so since then, you've expanded service. You opened up a restaurant on your property.
We did, yeah. So we converted the old stables of the house and just turned it into a really tiny little. It started up as a tea room, really, serving cakes and it's on a really, really small scale. We had an art exhibition. We were hosting, one of the artists here. It's an art exhibition that runs all the way up the valley. And because we said that we would host an artist, I thought, oh, I'll just make some tea and make some cakes, and we're here anyway, and anybody
And then
that passes wants cups of tea and have a cake, and it just became bigger and bigger
it did. Then we
year on year.
graduated to quiche
Yeah, quiche and soup,
and
and I
soup.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it
And
was
so
such good times.
they were really good times, and and yeah, and it's more difficult now. The restaurant isn't open in the same way it was before COVID. COVID definitely was difficult. It was a difficult time for so many small businesses, but particularly tourism and hospitality. And my girls, the big girls, they've grown up. They've got their own things. So they were my waitresses. So when I lost them, when they went off to do their own thing.
Yeah.
So we do still do, events, and I do a lot of food for, groups and retreats and things. So I do all the food for that. But it's not the same as before. But it's all good. It's ever evolving, and I think that's what's so amazing about, choosing this lifestyle. When we came here, the plan wasn't to open a shop at all. The plan was just to live here. And then, the financial crash hit in 2008, and we had to sort of change our plan, which is why we then opened up as a bed and breakfast. And we're always evolving. And COVID was another evolution for us. We had to look at how we were going to move this business, how we were going to keep up with everything that had happened. So we put a swimming pool in, and we decided, right, we're going to still do bed and breakfast, but we're also going to move out of the house and rent the whole house out for the summer, which we've done for the last 2 summers. Also, welcoming larger groups. So that's been amazing as well. So collaborating with other people in the village. So we're now 3 beautiful houses, so we can, host larger groups, which is, unbelievable. So we're always evolving, always changing. I think that's really what life is about, isn't it?
It is what life is about.
So, I suppose historically, when, perhaps with our parents, they went to school, they decided they were going to be, I don't know, doctors or lawyers or nurses or teachers or mechanics or whatever they decided to be, and they stayed in those jobs until they retired.
Yeah.
But I think, our generation, we're entrepreneurial. We're not necessarily fixed on a career or a path. We just go, right, we're just going to do what we feel drawn to do. And each stage, there's more growth, there's more learning. And so each stage of the evolution of Les Marguerites, I've learned to cook, on a big scale. I've learned to host in a different way. I've learned to hold space for people bringing retreats. I've learned to hold my own retreats. I mean, if somebody had said to me 10 years ago, oh, you're going to be, holding your own retreats, I would never have even believed it.
Yeah.
But everything's possible.
I love that. Everything is possible. And I love how the mystery weaves it together. It's not like, I mean, you and Keith just walked by and were like, oh, in the same way. Yeah, just imagine that. And just in that, imagine that.
Yeah.
Right.
Just those simple words.
Yeah. And how everything is just woven together, how your family is held together and everything that you're creating. Yeah. It's really ambitious and so powerful. Like to watch how the house has changed form, how your children have changed form, watching you and then watching the restaurant. I haven't seen the pool yet. But just, so for those that are listening, Antoinette lives in like Cathar country, in like a prime location for um all of the like the Knights Templars, the Magdalens, the ancient feminine, just it's a prime area to explore the countryside and all of the sacred points and sacred spots
Yeah.
that people
And I
journey.
mean, just the history. I mean, we're in a medieval village. You know, the Romans first discovered this. You know, it's so ancient, so
Yeah.
ancient. I mean, the water is unbelievable.
Oh my God.
You know, just we're so fortunate, literally so fortunate. We're sitting under this volume of water that's
Yeah.
just 99% whatever pure. It's, you know,
Yeah.
the cleanest, most delicious water in the world.
It
And
is phenomenal.
my children have grown up, you know, living, drinking, just yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah. And that's also a piece that I think is really, really beautiful to acknowledge, which is the lifestyle of living so close to nature.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really know what the seasons are. You know, we really
Yeah.
do get, you know, we get four very distinct seasons. We have food that we can only eat in season. You know, like
Mhm.
I can't get strawberries in January. You know, I have to wait until the season comes round. And, you know, we're buying vegetables loose, not wrapped in plastic.
Oh, amen.
You know, so much sort of organic, artisanal, you know, it's simple food, simple lifestyle. I mean, sure, you can get, you know, gastronomic restaurants and you can eat all the sort of fancy
Yeah.
French cuisine. There's that too, but you know, your everyday life, you can eat, you know, beautiful food,
Hmm.
not, you know, so expensive and just good quality, real food.
Yeah, real food. And market days where you go and you interface with the farmers, you interface with all of the all this the cheese. I wish I could just transport
I
myself there
know.
right now,
Mhm.
and just go pick up all these beautiful details. It's
Well, and even just, you know, because we're a sort of a community as well, just being able to, well, I've got plums and I've got apples and da, 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 and just exchanging food amongst each other. And I mean, that's, you know, it's sort of going back in time in a way.
it is.
Quite often the French will ask me, you know, why France, why here? And I'm like, well, because this is how my childhood was. So my children have had a childhood like my childhood, you
Mm,
know, where they would go around the village on their bikes um, and possibly my children are the last, you know, I hate to think it, but you know, maybe they're the last ones that will have that because
yeah.
you know, it seems that technology has sort of taken over so big now. But you know, my children were young enough that they did go out on their bikes and they made dens and it was safe for them and there wasn't loads
Yeah.
of traffic and all of that. And that was how I grew up. So yes, you know, they haven't had, you know, had we perhaps stayed in the UK, they would have had access to, I don't know, drama classes or, you know, some of the arts and, you know, perhaps different kinds of sports. And, well, I, you know, if they want, they
That
can
wasn't
find
their
those things
path.
later. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, there's so much there. What a rich life. It really, really is. We look out into the world and the media will show us like what the world's version of what a rich life is. I mean, but just to be loved in your family and to have a healthy unit and be connected to nature and eating fresh food and
yeah,
growing. I mean, it's really, you've created something so beautiful.
I know. Well, we're just very fortunate.
Yeah.
Very, very fortunate.
Yeah. I love
Mm.
it. So talk to me a little bit about, so let's talk about the retreats, if that feels like you want to
Yeah,
segue into that.
sure.
So, yeah,
Well, I
speak
suppose
into.
the kind of the running theme, I suppose the running theme of my life is, you know, I'm living this sort of real life, you know, eating real food and, you know, real fresh air and good water and all of those, you know, all of that. And so I'm really sort of paying attention. So when I started to hit menopause a few years ago, I felt this real need for um, acknowledging, first of all, my menopause, and but finding the best way to manage it. I really sort of started looking into just for myself,
Yeah.
really, and then actually a really old friend of mine came. She's actually Lydia's godmother, and she came for a visit. She's a trained psychotherapist, amongst other things. She's done lots of things. She's been running women's groups for forever. Anyway, we were sort of chatting about our own little kind of menopause experience, and we were sort of laughing and joking, and crying, and going through how we're feeling at this time of our life. I said, wouldn't it be great to sort of bring women here and run just help women through this time of their life, with both of our resources.
Yeah.
So Hazel's resource of sort of the psychotherapy and sort of the emotional side of it, and me with the food side of it. So we teamed up. We ran our first retreats last year, and they were just amazing. I'm just bringing together a group of women are just all going through the same thing at the same time in very different ways, because some are medically managing their menopause, so on HRT, and some weren't, and it was just wonderful. Everything was accepted. There was no judgment. We just all were there for each other, and really just keeping it real. We weren't kind of trying to sort of do high impact sort of lose our weight, let's do it. We were just like embracing every aspect of the menopause and really just trying to traverse our best through it. And I really, really love doing it. I can't tell you how much I love doing it. And I would say a big part of the work is not even done by me. It's not, in the sense that it is literally done by the land, the house, the air, the food. It's just passing through us.
Yeah.
Literally passing through us. So that's really, really massive. That's been, a steep learning curve. And in fact, the first time I had to sort of do my little talk about food, I was so nervous, and I thought, I know, really had to push myself in, way out of my comfort zone. I'm getting, better at it, and keep working on it, and find different ways of doing it, trying to make it, real and interesting. So that's, I suppose, the big thing in my life at the moment is really, really doing that. And then just, looking at other things that people might like to come here for. So we also did our first Indian cookery retreat last year, which was amazing. And I love Indian food, and it's so good for us, and
it is
so healing and just amazing. And so and I've done that. I did that with an Indian chef who flew in from London. She's just beautiful, Monisha. And so next year we've got our first Ayurvedic. So not just Indian cooking, but we're going to do Ayurvedic sort of work as well. So putting the two together, which is I'm so excited about. I'm so excited to learn. I don't know loads about Ayurveda, but I know enough that I know it's going to be so beneficial. And just bringing those two things together, it's just practical, and it's good.
It's incredible that just the house and the space that you hold there. I mean, we've seen so many different kinds of groups that have come through for all different reasons. It's just it's a really beautiful holding space. And now that the restaurant is there, like accessible to those, so for groups to be able to have their private space, and it is really, really a sacred place. It's thank you for all of that service. It's so powerful.
Well, it's really important. I think we all have to have a purpose, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And look, for some it's I think it's all about service. It's all about service to the divine. So whether that's whether you want to call that God or the source or whatever you want to call it. I do like to use the word God, because I feel like, we are in service to God. That's what I'm here for. Just from a place of love, and just that's my purpose. That is my purpose, plain and simple. And I feel so fortunate that I have found my purpose, and I'm living my purpose. I'm living the very best version of myself and my dreams, and my dreams for the world, because I know that not everybody obviously is going to pass through our doors, but I really feel that people that do pass through leave, I don't want to say better, because that's meaning that they weren't good before, but feeling enhanced, if you like, that they've gone away with more than they came with. And that's, if I can just play a really, really small part of that, then that's just magic.
It is magic. Oh, incredible, incredible. Really. So much. So I'm going to obviously provide all the information below as far as how, for people who want to bring their writing retreats, people who want to travel the Magdalene terrain, the Cathar country, and just come and be loved and nourished in the land and relax, how they can do that and how they can co-create with you to create some magic. And that, I think, is really beautiful too, because what I perceive is, it's not just like come and stay and it's like, oh, it's also, it's also beautiful. It's a co-creation that you bring forward. So you really, really are level up and work together with the person to create a vision for what they want to, to create for their.
And it's about doing things, intuitively. I try my best to really feel what, not everybody, we can drop back as well. So in the sense that somebody can come and just be, we'll just sort of, if I feel like they just need that space, and we'll just sort of slip back into the pack and just, hold the space, of course, but really just let them be without any kind of disturbance. So it's really, trying to pick up on what people want, what they need. One of my favorite things is like when we get sort of, because the easy sell is, in a way, is the ones that are already on the road, on the path, already awake and already kind of know a lot and can really pick up on energy and the land and feel. What I love almost more is the people that aren't there, that have literally they're not even sure why they, ended up in this sort of very sleepy little village in southwest France, and they sort of, I had one guest a few years ago who sort of sat in the garden, and he arrived and gave him a glass of wine. It was quite cool. It was an autumn day, and him and his wife sort of had rugs on their knees in the garden, having a glass of wine before dinner. And he came in, brought the glasses because he was going up to get change for dinner. He's like, I had a little bit of a panic attack. And I'm like, is everything okay? I remember sort of, is everything okay? He's like, yeah. And he said, just that my mind went totally blank. I had nothing going through just totally blank. And and I was like, that's good. No, like, no, it's amazing. I haven't had my mind hasn't had a rest for so long. And so I was, so that, and he had no idea, and I'm just thinking all of this, all the, the fairies in the garden and the leaves in the trees, and they're all sort of doing their little bit of magic. And this guy just, had some brain free, thinking, nothing going on through his head. And that for me is, I just love that the most. When those happen, I'm like, yes, that's good. More of
That
that
is, yeah, more of that.
for everybody, because we all need
We do, Antoinette. We really do.
it.
We really do. More places to drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for stewarding that sanctuary.
Well, it's our pleasure. It
Mm.
really is, totally.
So before we start to close up, is there anything else that's coming through? Anything that feels yummy in your belly that you want to share? Or do you feel like,
I think we've done good.
I think so too. I think it's been beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time and
Thank
coming to
you.
share with us. And I'll put all your information below, anyways that they can reach you. Yeah, to come and play on your incredible, delicious land. Yep. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you to
so
our
welcome.
listeners.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next time.
We will.
Thank you.
Bye.